Hello and welcome to the program that takes you on a ride in 25 minutes to seek out innovation and creativity that are unique to Africa. On this week's edition, young Nigerian talents build a mini sports car called Aspira Espola. Also, I will be talking to Tony Bamidele, a digital innovation officer at the United Nations Development Programme, on what 2024 holds for the African tech startup ecosystem. We'll give you more in just a moment. This is Tech Trends, and I am Olayemi Udunuga.
As the world we live in is so unpredictable, the ability to learn and to adapt to change is imperative, alongside creativity, problem solving, and communication skills.
Some graduates of the Mechanical Engineering Department, University of Jos in Plateau State, have built a mini sports car which they named Aspira Espola. The team builds the car mostly from locally sourced materials with the help of some of their lecturers and Jerry Mallow's Benny Automobile.
Sitting pretty in front of the Mechanical Engineering Department, University of Jos, is a green locally built mini sports car and is the final year project of a team of 500 level students at the same department. In January 2022, after their defense, news of their work made rounds on social media to the amazement of many Nigerians who applauded their feat.
The name of the car is Aspira Espola, and we got the name, they are French names actually. Aspira stands for strive, like to strive, and Espola means hope. So we're striving because we believe there's hope for Africa to meet up with the world in terms of automobile technology.
The team say when the time to work on their project came, they wanted to stand out and to put minds together to come up with something different.
Yes, when we started the project, I told most of my colleagues, I said, this will take us places. When we finished this, I told them that by God's grace, this year, I want us to make either an electrical car or a solar-powered car. And by God's grace, we'll actualize that dream.
They started working on the project in May, even though there were fears they wouldn't meet the deadline, but with their determination and support from those around them, including their lecturers, they were able to complete it in due time.
At the first run, most of the lecturers were actually not too direct with us because you knew that the time frame was not on our side. Then secondly, there was not any positive vibe coming from most of them per se. But I believe that they actually had our back.
My department, that's from the institution, they gave us support. Yes, initially though, they were concerned with us being able to meet up on time with the project, but as time went on, we were persuasive, telling them that we'll meet up. Anyhow it is, we can be able to meet up. They gave us that try, and here is the outcome of the work. So for them being able to give us that chance and that try alone, I can commend them for that. They supported us very well. And in terms of our other aspects, like our designs, they kept on supervising us to see that we make things right.
Being a fan of cars, I was like, wow, I think I love this project, but I can tell you it won't be easy. Because the reason why I say it won't be easy, because you don't find design of cars in textbooks. Because it's patent to the companies, so they don't release their secrets. So it means that you have to apply the knowledge from the classroom in the designs. So I think this is great, but if you guys think that you have learned enough, which we know that we have taught you guys enough, then go ahead. But the finance also, you guys are up to tax. I said, yes. I said, well, then go ahead. I'm ready to supervise you guys.
Many would wonder how they got inspired to embark on such a project, and the response brings in Benny Automobile into the story. In 2020, Jerry Mallow, the current leader at Benny Automobile, built the first Nigerian carbon fiber sports car named Benny Puri. And so, tapping from his pool of knowledge through an internship with him, the team were able to build theirs.
Benny Automobile, the person of Jerry Mallow, he inspired us in so many ways. Like, he exposed us to a lot of things, and he made us realize that we can achieve these things without thinking like there's something that is not achievable. So he exposed it. During our 300 level, we went for a conference he organized, and during that conference we had the lectures. He did the lectures for us, and during that lectures he exposed us to a lot of things, and he showed us some of his works, and that was where we picked interest, and we decided to go for our COS 1,300 level in the company.
After their internship, they decided they wanted to build a car model as their graduating project. So I was actually happy when they said that, and I tried to enlighten them about some of the challenges that most likely they will be facing. And I and my team did our best to support them in the project. We took a lot of time. We gave them personal dedication. We dedicated a lot of effort to seeing that they learn the knowledge, not just doing it, not just us doing it for them, but if we are saying they should use this material, we do our best to explain why they need to use this material, and we make sure that they do it themselves. At the end of it, they were successfully able to build a car prototype, and it was a happy beginning for me, for them. That's the way I see it. I just hope that they will continue developing and building on that foundation.
Most of the materials used were sourced locally with a lot of trials and errors, but it was a learning curve for them. Each member of the team had a role to play, all to ensure that their project was a success.
What I actually worked on was on the car body. Now, to get the car body, what we did was we got the artificial clay first. Now, the clay was then soaked in a drum. Now, the soaking was done for a minimum of 6 hours. Now, after that soaking was done, we carried out kneading. Now, the purpose of the kneading was to eliminate the lumps in the clay. Now, after that lumps were eliminated, we now deposited the artificial clay directly on the chassis body. Now, at that stage, that was where we allowed the clay to dry for a minimum of 2 days. Then we started the initial carving.
My major role in this project, in achieving this project, was the exterior aspects, bringing out the beauty, as you can see here.
My work on this project, where I had more contribution, was on the body. That's the molding, right from layering the fibers and then bringing out the shell of the body shell, and then joining the body into a single unibody, and then also joining it to the chassis frame that was constructed.
I did more of the sourcing, getting of the clay, getting of the cylindrical pipes for the chassis, the metal steels, though we use standard parts, just like the engines, the transmission, the braking system. You could see the headlamps. All those parts were standard, was not made by us, but the body made by us, because those are sourced just like what, like the clay, the fiberglass, we use the POP, you know, just to make up. Those are the materials we're able to source, and actually played a role in sourcing them.
I carried out the concept designs for the car body and also the chassis. So we built the chassis from scratch with locally sourced materials, and also we built the body. So we got all that from the base plan of the project, which was from the concept designs, which I did.
I was in charge of the beauty on the inside. I was in charge of the interior. I made sure that the inside was not just only comfortable to the eye or good to the eye. I made sure it was hygienic, it was safe.
The journey was indeed a tasking one, and it seemed they had no idea what it would take from them when they first started.
The biggest challenge was the funding aspect. That was the money, the finances, the financial aspects. Because at some point we were down in the financial aspect, how we were going to actually complete the project. But we were able to skip through it. We had some money to paint the car and also do the interior part.
One could have expected the issue with funding they had, but there were other challenges they didn't envisage.
Getting the materials was one of the biggest challenges. When you get the material, sometimes the color is not what you want, because the interior is where everyone stays, and you need it to be pleasing to the eye. So we made sure that I get the material that was pleasing to the eye and the color that was good. So getting this material was a big challenge, very, very big challenge.
Even though they say they got great support from their lecturers, the initial reaction from them wasn't the same. It felt like they were embarking on a Herculean task, but in the end, they were all proud of their achievement.
We try to encourage the innovation as well as practical implementation of engineering solutions by our students, because we realize that the way the country is going, the way the labor market is going, we have to ensure that we train students who themselves can provide solutions rather than going out there to look for white-collar jobs. So, and we are glad that at least a great percentage of our students assimilated this particular principle in the faculty, are working towards it, and that's why we're getting results, as you can see. And we only hope to do better.
When this came up, we were excited. We put up ourselves together. We know we have given them the basis. That's the theory aspect of it, of which, not car, if they feel they can develop, they can fly an aeroplane, they have the knowledge. That's what the department has done over these years. From 100 level to 500 level, the knowledge they have acquired. It's only possibly the missionaries that could limit them. They can go anywhere or they can do anything that they can't within the confines of mechanical and theoretical aspect that we have given them. So we are not surprised, because we know what we have given them theoretically. So when they came up with this, we were excited. We gave them all the support.
We want to train students who will be independent, who will be able to fly the flag of mechanical engineering out there in the labor market. So I am expecting them, or believing that they will take this knowledge they have acquired to establishing themselves, to becoming independent and entrepreneurs. We should have several innocents in Nigeria, because we have the brain work, we have the capability.
Building a car from scratch was no easy work, but for the team, it's just the right push they need to veer into the automobile industry.
I actually have passions for cars, actually. I think since when I was a kid. So having to do this project was really a big dream for me. So I actually see myself pursuing a career in the automotive industry in the future.
With their creativity and zeal, these young minds have once again proven that there exists raw and brilliant talent in Nigeria. With the right support from the government, they can develop their knowledge and do more amazing things for the benefit of the country.
The African tech startup scene appears poised for dynamic evolution, driven by emerging trends and opportunities across different sectors in 2024. The anticipated advancement in innovation with the increased funding prospects are expected to empower startups addressing societal challenges. However, navigating this transformative landscape requires founders to stay agile and capitalize on emerging trends. Toyin Bamidele, Digital Innovation Officer at the United Nations Development Programme, gives a view of what African tech startups may encounter this year. Thank you so much, Toyin Bamidele, Digital Innovation Officer at the United Nations Development Programme. Thank you so much for joining us on Tech Trends.
Thank you so much, Olayemi, for having me.
Now, Toyin, let's begin with the trends you anticipate will shape the landscape for African tech startups this year. I mean, are there specific sectors expected to thrive?
All right, fantastic. It's going to be a very interesting year because now than ever before, we can no longer talk about the African tech landscape without the context of development, which I think would make this set of conversations very interesting. There are three components that typically impact the landscape of African tech generally, but specifically African tech in this context, which is number one, the development context. Number two is an understanding of the capital or capital flow. The third is policy and governance. And lastly is the talents within the ecosystem. So first is the development context is that there is a national priority for socioeconomic transformation and discovering novel pathways to socioeconomic transformation due to our differentiated needs, the different paradoxes. We have been rich human and natural resources, but still experiencing poverty and unemployment and inflation and so forth. So the development context really is around discovering new pathways to socioeconomic transformation and also employing digital technology and frontier technologies to, to accelerate our race to prosperity and sustainable development. Secondly, another thing that was going to shape the trends is capital. This year is very interesting because of, we call it the election year. Across major markets, there's going to be a lot of elections going on. Investments, we already even the data shows that investment dwindled last year. So we can expect that it's going to pause for a little while.
Toyin, let me, take us back to the investment part you mentioned earlier. Considering the global economic climate, how might external factors influence the growth and investment landscape for African tech startups?
Okay, so for the investment landscape for African tech startups, most of our funding comes from the US and Europe, right? And those are the major areas that these political realities of the elections are going to be happening. So we can expect also that there are going to be three components that are going to impact the investment landscape. Number one is that, interestingly, aside from it being the election year, there's also a high interest rate in the US currently. And then there's the hype around AI and how it's really shifting the economic realities and industry activities. And then lastly is, Nigeria and Africa still taking preeminence as the frontier market for how global economics is going to unfold in coming years. So for the investment landscape, you can expect that, yes, sadly, we will still experience more decline in the inflow of external funding. We can also expect to see more mergers and acquisitions, and even to some degree, some shrinking of will I say, operations due to different economic realities of, inflation, hyperinflation, really, and yes, the dwindling talents within the market. So those things would typically affect the VC funding, but it will pick up. But that would be most likely later end of the year. But this is where it gets interesting. As I said earlier, that we can no longer discuss the African tech landscape without thinking what is the development context. So interestingly, there would be rise in alternative funding. For example, I observed over time that there is more alternative funding where people are now open to earlier exits than later exits. So that's one trend within the VC space. And then development organizations such as ours are also now, getting involved in supporting the startup ecosystem. So we can expect to see more inflow of capital, interestingly, from development organizations.
What strategies can these startups, employ to ensure that they are well positioned for success this year?
All right. So first off would be that there needs to be more engagement across sectors. Interestingly, engagement has most likely been between the same. Well, there's engagement going on, but it needs to increase a little bit more. So yes, how startups can position themselves to be number one, create their impact story, get more, drive more engagement with development partners, and yes, ensure that their unit economics is right and their business models directly tie into socioeconomic transformation. Either you're directly solving unemployment, either you are facilitating job creation, or you're driving enterprise support, or you are driving digital transformation in some way, or digitization in some way. So yes, so I think those are kind of areas where startups can look into exploring.
All right, Toyin, but as with any evolving ecosystem, there are challenges. Which ones do you foresee for, African tech startups this year? And also, where do you see significant opportunities for growth and development?
So yeah, there are challenges. The talent challenge is still a big problem, but as I said, I think this is a year of development players. Right? So let's use the Nigeria Jubilee Fellowship program that I mentioned earlier, is that we've been able to deploy, we've been able to place 3,000 talents, and then we have projects around placing digital talents in MSMEs just to ensure that the digital capacities are enhanced. And we can see that even at the federal level, the Honorable Minister, Dr. Bosun, is also, through his team, deploying the 3MTT program and other related initiatives. So I think the challenge around talent is still very preeminent. The challenges are still the same around access to capital, access to talents, the irregularities of policies and all of that. So the big opportunities would come from adopting frontier technology like AI, right? Looking for how, because interestingly, even if there will be a global dwindling of funding, right? AI, there's still an AI hype. So AI startups, AI enabled startups would still get funding. So those are areas of opportunity, especially in a place like Africa. So adoption of AI. Another interesting opportunity would actually be crypto, based on the African stablecoin consortium, right? And all of the work being done there. Another interesting opportunity is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, right? There's a lot of work being done there, especially by players like us, UNDP. Yeah, so those are the areas, and I think opportunity would be in, the opportunities will still be around how do you support these talents. Really, it's really about talents this year. So players designing solutions for talent shortage and enterprise support around creating opportunities for consumers as well would be a good a good angle to consider. Those are where the growth opportunities would really come from. Our agricultural sector still still underutilized. Our health, yes, healthcare is going to be very big this year as well. So those are the areas of opportunity I think startups can really explore.
All right, Toyi, I'm afraid that's all we can take for now, but it was a pleasure having you join us on Tech Trends.
Thank you so much for having me.
And it's a wrap of the show this week. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you're interested in keeping track of how tech-savvy innovators are crafting homegrown solutions using technology in the country, keep watching Tech Trends because we will continue to showcase them for you, from startups to big techs and, of course, inventful thinkers. Also, if you missed any parts of the show, you can always catch up on the channel's TV accounts where we have all of our episodes, and I encourage you to watch, share, and like your favorite editions. For Tech Trends, I'm Olayemi Odunuga. Bye for now.